Welcome back to the Fix the Future portion of our podcast series for Buy Your Kids a House. In this episode, we'd like to dive into topics that we can all agree on that are issues that either we're currently facing or will be facing now and in the future, not only for ourselves, but for our kids. And this one with buying kids a house, I think the first issue we can look at is buying a house. And we can agree that the housing market currently is kind of broken. With the aspect of the last 25 years of the house prices have more than doubled, but our income sure hasn't kept up with that. So what can we do to look at how to address that issue, what we can do to fix it not only now, but in the future moving forward?
Yeah, no, exactly. It's crazy because like by the time you pay your rent or your mortgage, that's at least half your paycheck these days. So, and that's before you buy groceries or anything else that you need for survival alone. So looking at these different things, the question is, can we actually fix it?
Yeah. So we're going to look at how things are looking now, how it might look in the future, and what sort of short-term things we can do to fix it, as well as long-term possibilities. And we'll see if we can find some helpful solutions with this along the way. So come join us.
All right, let's dive in.
So again, we're going to address the issue currently going on. As we've said before in our previous episode, and if you haven't seen it, please go back and check it out, because we really dive into the aspect of a budget following the 50-30-20. So if I'm saying 50-30-20, you have no idea what I'm talking about, go back and watch that episode and you'll understand a little more what it is we're talking about. But with that, we can address and show that the median household income in the United States is roughly $75,000. So that's about $5,000 a month take-home pay after your taxes and everything. But the median home price currently is roughly $420,000. And with today's interest rates around 7%, that's almost $2,700 a month for mortgage, and that's even before insurance and taxes. So already we're at 54% of your take-home pay, and we haven't even added in your other needs. Right. So again, where do we even go from there of how to fit that budget and everything? So
like even before you pay for your food or your gas or any of the other things that you need, it's the over budget already. Yeah. Like inherently, if you look at it, it's going to be over budget just automatically with those costs. And man, does the rule even hold up anymore?
It's tough to say because obviously you want to fall in that 50-30-20, but with those house prices and the idea of a starter home is totally gone.
Right.
What it used to be, you're young, you're recently graduating from college, whatever, you're starting your life. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go out and get my starter home. Well, starter homes don't really exist and everything now. You're instantly already jumping into a $400,000+ home. Yep. That is not a starter home to be.
No, exactly. I remember growing up, like my parents finally got like their dream house, if you will, and at the time it cost them $285,000 for like almost a 4,000 square foot home. That's unheard of right now.
Yeah, and then even like fixer-uppers and everything. Yeah. Like you see fixer-uppers now, and they're still $400,000 homes. Like it's like how the heck am I supposed to do a $350,000? Let's even call it a little bit less than that, and then you have to put another $100+ grand into fixing it up. Like you're not at that point. Like we're in that journey. Are you supposed to start off in life? Which again is why we're trying to potentially set our kids up to have that house.
Exactly.
But like, how do people dive into it now? Now I know the talk is interest rates might come down because 7% is a little high.
It is.
But also there's a big fear that if interest rates come down, it'll cause the prices of homes to skyrocket and basically offset that potential savings you would have from having lower interest rates.
So really, ultimately, in that situation, there's no difference. You're just allocating the money to a different spot. Is it going to the interest or the higher payment of the total cost?
Yeah. And even a lot of experts say you buy the house but date the rate. But the thing is, can you really even date the rate? Because right now interest rates have been high for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
This isn't like the pre-2008 bubble that everyone's doing the adjustable rates and waiting for that I'm waiting for it to get it a little lower and lock it in and everything. Like it's been 7, 8, 9% for the last couple of years, and we don't know how much longer that's going to be that way. So like, can you date the rate and accept that higher price point with the hopes that you'll just then readjust and reevaluate and refinance afterwards?
Right.
When it's a year, 2, 5 years down the road, can you even afford that for that term, waiting, hoping that the rates come down? And even then, when they come down, how much do they come down? Half point, a point? Like,
right. We're
not going to see probably the 3 and 4% that we saw a couple of years ago, at least not anytime soon. So, can you date the rate for that long term, waiting for it to come down that much? I don't know.
You don't even really know if it's going to come down. It may go up a little bit more before it even starts to hit that decline. So just gauging that is so hard right now to be able to look at it and see like, okay, is this something for me to like you said, refinance in the next 3 to 5 years, or am I just better off waiting?
Yeah. So I think right now, we need to accept, unfortunately, the fact that this is the price of the homes and the interest rates that we're looking at. So instead of trying to look at how to blow up the housing market and restart over again, because I don't think we're going to have another crash like 2008 anytime soon. At least I hope not to that extent. Maybe a little bit of a market readjust, but not anywhere near that level of crash. But what can we do in the short term and long term future to have other types of solutions we can look at? Yeah. So I think we'll dive a little bit into that now.
All right, let's go.
All right. So first, I think we're going to dive into some short-term fixes, because I think we can all agree that we need to do something now to try what we can do to help mitigate the issues and everything before we even worry about buying our kids a house down the road, or our future dream house. So we're going to look at what can we do today until the long-term fixes catch up to that, and help have better budgets and save the money and everything currently and everything. So one of the first ideas I think is a great idea to start off with is...
Yeah, well, I mean, since, I rent, you have a mortgage, but I rent, so having some roommates isn't enticing, especially when you're in your 30s. It's like, no, my own space, my own area, I don't want to share it, but that helps total costs. Like, if you have, 2 or 3 bedrooms, get a couple people and live with you, because if you're splitting $2,000 a month in rent 3 ways, it's going to significantly change your budget around, especially with the 50-30-20 rule.
Yeah.
I'm going to be able to allocate that money to more to savings, or, if I'm over budget, I'll be able to go back down in and look at like immediate fix with that as well. It's not necessarily a long term, because as we know, roommates come and go.
Yeah.
But it is an immediate fix. It is, I don't know, it's helped me a lot in the past. I've used that idea several times, and it's not always ideal, and you always get the oddball sometimes. But
no, and obviously there's the personal friction sometimes with having roommates and everything, but financially it definitely is a huge help.
Oh, huge.
Even when I bought my house and everything, I had a couple extra spare bedrooms and I rented out to some friends, and it helped me and helped them, because I charged them far less than what rent would be on their own.
Right.
And then obviously it helped me balance out the mortgage. Plus, also helps balance out other bills in the house. Your electric, your water, your cable, your internet, because you share those costs across as well. So you have even more savings from that aspect. Now there is definitely the human relationship side of it. Like, are they on the same cleanliness level as you? Do they have the same personal space aspects and everything?
Right.
Are you a late night owl and they're an early morning riser? So you have to be conscious of those things and respect of those aspects. But if you can at least vet those areas, I think there's a huge benefit of potential savings for the roommate thing. Now, am I saying you should go buy a house that far exceeds that level? Maybe not.
Right.
But at least, especially from the renting aspect, initially, great way to help spread across the rent costs, and you can then maybe start stashing money aside to then buy a house down the road. And then once you can afford the house, it is a great way to help offset your other costs. So go into the house knowing you can afford it, but then add the roommates and everything come in to help maybe be an extra stream of income to help put money aside, stash things up and everything along those lines. Now, go in with the mindset, especially when you have the mortgage, that you can afford the house.
I was about to say the same thing.
Because if all the roommates move out and everything, you still got the mortgage
You're
payment.
still stuck with the mortgage,
And even with rent and leases and everything, you don't want to break leases and everything. So you got to make sure that people are in it. But at least those are year-long, year-to-year. You can re-up, redo, move around.
Right.
But with the mortgage, you're in that for 30 years.
So,
and you don't want to ruin your credit and all that type of stuff, and
right.
and have the house foreclosed on everything. So definitely go in knowing you can afford the house, but then a great way to still help offset the cost of that would be looking at roommates and everything. So
no, absolutely.
now one other little aspect is, and I know also, as you mentioned, a lot of people like to hear it, is living further away.
Yeah.
I grew up, so in the Orlando area, there's a little bedroom community called Claremont, Mineola, that area, which is further away. But my parents bought there because at the time, houses were cheaper out that way.
Oh, yeah.
Now, granted, those who live here now, Claremont's grown a lot. And
so much.
The home prices have caught back up. But at that time, that was how we were able to afford things, was living a little further from Orlando. My father worked for Disney and everything, so it was close enough for him to get to and from work. Right. But we were far enough away from Orlando that the price and cost of things offset. Now, you do have to keep in mind other things that might go up in cost, like your commuting costs. More gas, or if you have an electric car, more for charging the car.
Right.
The cost and wear and tear of your car, because obviously you're going to have to replace your tires, more oil changes. Newer cars, again, because you're going to have to put more mileage on it. You're going to end up running out where you have to do more maintenance and everything. So you do want to take that into consideration. But if those costs still outweigh or are better for than outweighing of the savings of it, it might be an option. Everything, especially even at least here, you can live a little further, maybe like a Lakeland or thing along those lines, to still make it down I-4 now. I-4 is awful.
I was actually, to tie into that, I was going to say it's either dealing with really bad traffic around this area or the toll roads. There's something that sneaks up on you because our tolls are so expensive.
I don't know how we agreed on this, but there are so many toll roads in this area.
Yeah.
I alone spend over $3,000 a year on tolls alone.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, tolls catch up on you. So looking somewhere that is more accessible but is only off of a toll road, is that a better option?
Yeah, so those are definitely things to take consideration because you don't want to save, let's say $500 a month off your rent or mortgage, but you're spending $600 or $800 more on tolls, gas, and everything else. Then it doesn't make sense on that aspect. Right. But if you save $500 off and you've only gone up $100 or $200, boom, then you have some savings.
Yeah.
So you do have to take everything in consideration, but at least might be a short-term solution to that. And you can still incorporate it with the idea of roommates and everything as well.
Yeah.
But you do have to find other people, like-minded people that are okay living a little further away. So there is an added challenge there. But you definitely want to take into consideration of those increased costs because a lot of times people look at like, boom, it's $500 less in rent, but not the extra costs.
No, exactly. Like, I know a lot of places here now, like you were talking about Claremont, you had to go to Claremont to get out of it. And that's, depending on where you're at, about a half-hour drive from pretty much anything. Now you have to go an hour away to hit lower costs and like things that are more affordable. And at that point, like I've done the math for me when I've been looking at buying a house, I would spend the same amount of money on travel, and you also have to consider your time as well.
Yeah, time is important too. Yeah.
Like 2 hours a day just sitting in a car.
Well, that's because like as we mentioned, Lakeland, pretty much the only way from Orlando through that is I-4, and I-4, especially during those rush hour times, it's a parking lot.
Yeah.
So your personal time does become very critical in that aspect of is it worth on that, and that's up to you to decide. And also, can you find alternate ways around to get to and from Orlando from that way? There are other future roads that are connecting. Mm-hmm. We'll see. But, yeah, the I-4 alone could be a huge barrier preventing you from living that far. So, another area, though, to look at is kind of building upon the roommate idea.
Yeah, I was going to say, so kind of the same thing. Yeah. Around, if you wanted to be closer, no one necessarily wants to do this either, but you could look at buying a duplex. Or like something bigger, like with more rooms, but having a separate area to me is better than roommates.
Yeah.
So if you do have a duplex and you live in one side of it and rent out the other side, there you go. You're paying for some of your mortgage, if not most of your mortgage, just based off of the rent on the other side. And you can live closer typically because you're not paying as much and your commute is a lot shorter and be able to save that money. So that is definitely something to look into. I know over the years, that kind of trend has gone up and down of people wanting duplexes and not wanting duplexes. It seems like we're more in the single-family home era right now.
Yeah, that's been a lot of what they're building in there, at least in Orlando area.
Yeah. But if you find one and you find a good deal on it, yeah, I say that's a great option, especially to start having that income coming from the other side, and you can allocate your more money to savings and different areas you want to do things in. It's a way to open up as well as more of kind of a quick fix as well. And that could be a long-term fix.
Yeah. And again, it's kind of the roommate plus era, because again, as I mentioned before, you want to make sure you're on the same cleanliness level or sleep schedule and things along those lines. Those areas you don't have to worry about as much when you actually have your own separate space and a full firm wall dividing everything. Right. Now, you do still want to vet whoever it is that you're renting from and everything, because if they come in and destroy your duplex, then you've lost whatever savings you had because you're going to have to replace the carpet, repaint the walls, all that type of stuff. And also, if things break down there, you are still responsible for that because whether their fridge, their stove, things like that, you're their landlord, so you're going to help maintain that. But it does add that extra layer of privacy, which is nice. So if you have somebody you think would be a good roommate, but you want still your elbow room, that's a great way. Now, at least in Orlando area, they're not building as many of the duplexes. Right. But there is a new level of homes in this area. I don't know if you're familiar with this as much, but they're the next gen homes. Lennar's been building these a lot, where they have
Okay.
like basically they're meant to be initially like your mother-in-law suites and everything.
Okay. Yep.
But still they have their own full separate living space, just a
Mhm.
little bit smaller, but they usually have their own separate garage area, own living area, a little mini kitchenette and things. And it's usually meant for like a family member that you know, grandma and grandpa's coming back to live with you and everything.
Right.
But it still could be a way to have a roommate, but still have that little barrier of separation and everything. So
Yeah.
Lennar seems to be the main one building those, at least in the Orlando area. But those at least are newer areas. They're not full duplexes, but still roommate plus areas. I would say that you could do that with.
Yeah, no, and that's definitely an option. Something that you also have to keep in mind is if you buy a duplex and now you're renting out one side of it, you're kind of moving from a roommate situation to obviously the landlord situation. So that also definitely changes the relationship too. Versus if you're renting an apartment, an appliance goes out, you just call maintenance and the apartment takes care of it. So everyone's on like an equal playing field inside. That they're staying there, but as soon as you make that move, be prepared to take on that responsibility too, because it's more than just finances. You got to stay on top of it.
Well, and when you're a landlord, I mean, they can call you at all hours of the night because something went wrong, and at the end of the day, you are responsible for that. Now, there are ways maybe you can set up a little barrier, like maybe you could have, there are companies that will handle the rental aspects for you. You pay a percentage of whatever the rent is to them, but then they become that barrier between you. That might be an option to look at, but you get less money because of it because they're not going to pay that third party. But I had a coworker of mine years ago that he rented his own properties out, and the guy was all hours of night, like driving to houses, picking up new fridges, replacing it. And he's like, "Oh, I want to save the money from paying someone else to do it." I'm like, "But you're waking up all hours of night, having to answer phone calls from your tenants and everything."
Right.
And to me, like,
the quality
of life, they definitely wane from that. So especially if it's maybe not necessarily someone renting that other aspect of it, maybe having those companies that come in and do it for you and everything might be the route to go. If again, it still works within the budget of paying that third party to be that barrier.
Yeah.
And also, they're the ones also there, as much as we hate to say it, potentially with evictions. If they get behind on rent, those companies maybe have more of the legal aspect of knowing what the process is to handle that and everything. Because evictions are a real thing. Obviously, even good friends might be the ones that unfortunately take advantage or whatever, and have to cross that barrier of like, okay, unfortunately you're multi months behind on rent. Unfortunately, this isn't working out. So having that other third party company that can handle it from a legal aspect, they have the documentation, they have the processes in place, and go through and helping create that solution might be the route to go if it fits in the numbers.
And if you're someone that doesn't like conflict a lot, that is also probably worth your money. Like you're thinking, all right, I don't have to deal with this. It's worth paying that third party company to come in and do all these things. Or at least guide through it.
Yeah, like help guide through and then have already pre-done the legal documentation. Because if you do it yourself, also then that involves getting a lawyer, and that costs you more money.
I was gonna say, and then it just starts stacking up too. So. For me right now, renting is definitely the better option for me in this sense, but I'm totally open to that idea.
Now, the last current solution, everything I was wanting to dive into a little bit, is the tiny house movement. I liked the thought of the tiny house movement, and I think the concept of it is a phenomenal idea. Of basically having where people live a little more minimalist. Like, I know a lot of us for a long time was chasing the American dream of I needed the white picket fence on a large yard, on a lake, big house, massive square footage, all the extra bedrooms. Well, do you really need all that stuff? And especially a lot of times if you don't have, kids or animals or things along those lines, needing the tiny house of just literally a living space that combos into a kitchen space, and then you have the bedroom, bed to sleep on, and creating that smaller footprint not only helps in the sense of the price of the building materials and everything, but also the aspect of paying for AC cooling, for paying for the electric and everything is a smaller place. And I love the thought and the concept of it. Unfortunately, a lot of companies now seem to be taking advantage of that. They'll still now jack the price on it because it's become hipster cool and bougie and everything.
It became a trend, and what happens when an object becomes a trend? Skyrockets in price.
And unfortunately, a lot of businesses see the opportunity to get their claws into it. Like, here I am to make more money. You mean the same quarter acre plot of land I used to put one house on, I'll now put 4 houses on, but I can charge only half the price and I'm making twice the profit. Instead of it being truly a financial, windfall for us all and everything. Unfortunately, now there are a lot of companies are taking advantage of it now. I would like to see other companies in the future trying to maybe create these communities that actually are legitimately helpful for those that are wanting to, at least maybe even from a starter home aspect. This might be the new answer to the starter home I was talking about earlier.
No, I was actually going to tie into that. It sounds like they're becoming the new starter home, because I remember when tiny homes first became a thing, you could buy one from $5,000 to $10,000, and they were nice.
Yeah.
But now they've become a commodity, and now they're luxurious and different things like that. You could be spending $40,000 on a tiny house. That
I've seen even higher than that for these tiny homes, and it's like, and then you still have to buy the plot of land to put it on, and everything, and then the land prices even though you're buying a smaller plot to put it on, they're now charging a higher per square footage price and everything, just to balance that out and everything. So.
Yeah, which is crazy, because then you're pushing the starter home boundary then too, like $100,000 in now between the land and like the fees and your house that you purchase as well. And that's definitely a lot cheaper than a $200,000-$300,000 home. But are you getting that much with it?
Well, and even some of them, I've seen some that are already even the $200,000 to $300,000 as the tiny home, and
wow,
and with that, like, really, what am I benefiting and everything? Because again, the whole thought was, instead of the $400,000 home, I could have a $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 all in. But now they even blow that out of the water. It's like what are we doing at that point? So I love the idea of the tiny homes, especially from a starter home aspect, before kids and animals and everything like that.
Right.
But we need to get it back down to well under 100,000. Like, that needs to be in that range there, and hopefully maybe the market will correct itself in that sense, because right now, again, it's hipster cool to do.
Yeah.
But maybe we realize that this is actually a good solution moving forward and everything.
Right.
Maybe they'll realize that we need to have these options built out that way. For them.
Right. Make it more of a tangible real estate option, versus, because you have to break it up into segments. You have to find the land, then you have to find the home. Most of them are easy assembly, if not come pre-assembled, but at the same time, like, what are you getting out of it? Versus if you just saved a little bit more, wait a little bit longer, but then we tie into, we don't know which way it's going to go.
We don't know, yeah. So I think that at least covers most of our short-term solutions and everything we're talking about. Now we're going to try to dive into some long-term solutions and hoping for the future market corrections and everything with that. So I think we'll dive into that now. So,
all right.
Yeah. So we talked about some of the short-term solutions and everything. So now let's zoom out and look at some of the long-term solutions, because at the end of the day, we have the little patches of trying to get roommates and living further away and everything. But at the end of the day, that's just trying to get us a little bit from A to B. But we need to look at the aspect of what we need to do to correct this in the long term.
Absolutely.
And one of the main areas elements. So we have obviously the cost of land, the cost of building, the cost of the home, the markups and everything. But I think one of the good potential long-term solutions might be changing some of the costs of the materials.
Yeah, well, I was going to say the construction costs have skyrocketed like crazy. The materials, like you mentioned, but also like the labor.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And that's partly why the housing market is so expensive, is because it takes a lot more. Like, everyone's wages has gone up and all of the costs have gone up. But new technologies, it's awesome. 3D printing houses.
Yeah.
And not even just like 3D printing in the sense of like what we think in your own home with your little 3D printers and the plastic that it melts, but like full concrete homes that are modularly set up and have sections in them. And it's like in my opinion, it's a step up a little bit from like a tiny home that just gets plopped there and folded out, if you will. You have some more structural integrity, which I think is really cool, especially living in Florida with all of the hurricanes that we get every year, or the storms that we get.
Yeah.
You need something a little bit stronger. Tiny home, I'd be concerned with one here, and even as a short-term solution. But 3D printing homes, half the cost typically, and it goes up so much faster.
And that's even with today's technology, because as we know, with a lot of electronics technology, as we perfect it, the cost of it comes down even further. So, right now, the 3D printing of that level is cutting edge technology.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that down the road that will become something that not only the materials that are used, but the machinery is used, it overall comes down. And with that, you need less labor, less maintenance, less management of the technology. Kind of robots, you go out there and set it and forget it, and then boom, it does it for you. And then the electricians come in and do their wiring and HVAC systems and everything. But at least if we can get the walls and insulation and the main floor and everything set up from these 3D printing machines, it is a phenomenal option, I think, down the road that could have a lot of potential. And then
Yeah.
You know, even do some fun different things in your normal cookie cutter homes. A lot of these are seen nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, you get some really funky designs. Everything be fun too.
Yeah.
So, now with that, the other area to look at. So we, with the home costs and land costs, trying to get the land costs and everything down, but we need to look at the aspect of a lot of companies and things are using home now as an investment vehicle.
Yeah.
Now I do admit that I don't see necessarily an issue with trying to use real estate for investment, but we need to get a point where there's a balance of an investment and still for families to be able to get in and actually have their own home and everything. We want traditionally the tier idea of like, okay, I bought my starter home, now I moved to my mid-tier home, now I moved to my dream home, now I moved to my retirement home,
Right.
And having that step along the way. But it's very difficult to do when companies and everything, these real estate investment trusts or REITs, as a lot of time you'll hear them referred to as, people are buying those as investments for their own use, whether it's for rentals or even just owning the assets of the home, creating an artificial shortage in the market. The two main companies, everything that a lot of times you hear this of is Blackstone and BlackRock.
Right.
Now, again, you can look up online everything. Blackstone alone owns over 280,000 homes nationwide. BlackRock and others, real estate investment trusts, own probably 100,000 plus more. So you're looking at probably roughly 400,000 homes nationwide that are owned by these companies.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you'll hear if home prices dip, they'll just take the homes off the market.
Right.
And they'll create an artificial shortage to help bring the prices back up. If interest rates go up, again, they'll take the homes off the market and wait for interest rates to come back down, or vice versa, that whatever fits their need.
Right, whatever they need in it.
Yeah, and again, I think we need to have some sort of balance of litigation and things set up in our state legislation and nationwide legislation to still have that balance of, maybe the starter home level bracket is untouched by these real estate investment trusts and things that allow that entry level family to at least enter the market.
Right.
Some sort of balance and everything on there, so there's opportunities for families to at least get into a home of some sort, and then if they want to move on to your mansions and your beachfront properties and everything, maybe those are where like the investment properties can come in and have like your Airbnbs and things along those lines, so they allow them to do it that way, and not at the family entry level.
Well, no, exactly. Like when you start looking into it, and it's somewhat of a controversial topic too, is these institutes coming in and just buying up all of the houses, and like you said, creating a fake shortage or demanding the market in different ways and being able to dictate that. Should we have more of a limit on that? Like they can't buy as many, and it should go to the people that are actually living here, wanting that first home or a second home that you're wanting to tier up. Like sell your other one because now the value is higher than what you paid, and then get something a little bit nicer and be able to stair step that, if you will.
Yeah.
But it's really tough to do in specific areas too, because around here, I know around Disney, that's huge. A lot of big corporate
Airbnb
institutes,
all the way around there and everything. You see tons of those right now. So and I applaud and like the idea sometimes with the Airbnb, and it's fun to do renting a home sometimes in a hotel and everything, but where do we find that balance?
Yeah.
And again, it's finding that balance where maybe it's looking to zoning laws. They look into an area, they're like, okay, in this area we have 100,000 families, we need to at least have properties for those, and then everything beyond that can be for rentals, or at least a percentage of them, creating like a 50-50 spread, like half for rentals, half for families to live here. Planning for future growth as the city grows, so does the allotment of those homes. Because we have zoning laws for a reason, like why business can go in areas, why homes can go in the areas. I think we need to take it a step further and look into the homes of because a lot of these homes are turning to businesses, and then conversely, whenever the market dips, having these real estate investment trusts and Blackstone and BlackRock pull homes off the market just because they don't want to take the loss, and instead of having an opportunity where people could afford it and everything. So
give it a slight break, make it a little cheaper, maybe take the initial loss but have something better long term, or like we said, just limit the amount that they can take.
No, I remember. So I bought my home back in the 2008 bubble crash and everything during that time, and a lot of them were on the market for short sales and things. And short sales, you would think was a great godsend. Like, here's a chance for me to buy a home at a fraction of the price. But then a lot of times the banks kept dragging their heels because they don't want to let it go for that rate. And so, again, what you thought was a good opportunity to have a benefit turned out to be a huge headache. And basically, a lot of times they're almost waiting for the home to go to full foreclosure, and then the short sale didn't work, and then they would take the asset away, and then they would write off as a loss in the bank. But then they have the asset of the house. So like now you're losing the mortgage, but now you have the asset of the house. Yep. So we need to have things in place that better regulate that, because I like the idea of the short sales that helped out families during that time. And I'm not saying we need to have another bubble burst like that, but if the market does correct itself, having better things in place where people can have the opportunity to get out from underneath something, especially if the value drops way down, and not have that bankruptcy and everything impact them, but make it easier and better and more incentivized for the banks and everything to agree to that, because at the end of the day, like they've still got the interest they have from their mortgage. They sell the mortgage, they still sold the asset now is sold at the current market. So figuring out the gaps of where to fill that in, I think is definitely going to be a huge area of potential and everything with that. So I think that for the most part, like I think that covered a lot of our potential long-term solutions at the moment. So again, we're gonna we'll think about this and everything, I'm sure, down the road and everything with it, but it kind of covers the long-term solutions right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A lot of them are very feasible to do for the long-term and even the short-term to get to those long-term goals as well. It's just putting in a little bit of the effort and the work to get there to rebalance everything out.
So again, I think we covered a lot going over the idea of the housing market and things we can do in the short-term and long-term future to try to fix and everything. Now, we're definitely not going to go back to the 1990s where homes were super affordable and everything, but we are trying to figure out a path for that next generation to be able to afford a home, and the path to that, and what that takes into not only the right home now, but the right home for your future family and the stage and part in your life currently.
And it's important to remember that your first home doesn't necessarily need to be your dream home. It's a stepping stone. So use it to build upon, build up your equity, share the space, all those short-term things that we were talking about that gets you one step closer to the dream home that you were wanting.
And again, it's not about perfection, it's about progress and everything, making those short steps to get to your future goals and everything. And I hope you learned something from this. And if you did, please help us out by liking, subscribing, sharing. Please put in the comments any questions, other ideas you have, because we cover a lot, but we didn't cover everything, and there's going to be areas that we left out, and maybe you have also questions of follow-ups, like instead of having just having a roommate, how many roommates should I have? When should I stop having roommates? The stage might be when having kids or having dogs and things. And so we have those discussions and find out what might be a better solution for you. So please help us out by liking, sharing, subscribing, and joining us along this journey. And if you like this stuff, look at the other content from our other episodes. We're going to cover a lot in the finance aspects of this.
So much. We're going to go over so much. And like you said, just interact. Let us know. Talk to us as well. And remember that you can't change the past, but you can always build a better future.
Absolutely. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.
Until next time.